All right, last topic of the day. Klay Thompson is coming off the bench for the Golden State Warriors. He came off the bench last week before the All-Star break for the first time since his rookie year, scored 35 in that game. Brendon, the Klay fall off, the Klay decline, whatever you want to call it, I mean, we've known it's been happening for a long time. I think it was inevitable, not just based on age, but also when you go through the injuries he did, it's going to lessen your impact. It's going to lessen what you are. It just does, and that's unfortunate, but it's just the harsh reality of injuries. I want to ask this question, though, more than about Klay, but about like why this was even possible. I think that's the interesting part about this to me. And I think part of this is Brandin Podziemski is a rookie who's coming in and starting over Klay Thompson, one half of the Splash Brothers. Podziemski was not like a super high pick. He was not heralded, I think, in the draft in a real way. He's 20 years old. He went to Santa Clara. He was the 19th overall pick. Mm-hmm. What to you about Podziemski has made him? What about how he plays, what he does, what he's good at? What do you think made it possible for him to be someone who could step in and be the guy to take Klay Thompson's starting spot?
So I think from a style standpoint and what he's good and bad at, I think a lot of people that pay more attention to the draft than you or I from an earlier point thought he made sense here, right? So being kind of a combo guard, shoot, pass, good feel, offensively big-ish at 6'5", not, the physically biggest guy, but tall enough to kind of play a few different positions, which obviously they like on both ends. All those things I think you could have seen coming. I think to me the part that's allowed him to distinguish himself so quickly and make an impact as a rookie, which as Moses Moody and Jonathan Kuminga and James Wiseman will tell you is easier said than done here in Golden State. To me, it's just his confidence and his IQ, really, especially the confidence. I mean, some of the shots that he takes and makes, it's like, I mean, honestly, it kind of reminds me of Jordan Poole, if I'm being honest, to step into a program like this and just be like, yeah, the ball is going to leave Steph Curry's hands. The defense is going to rotate, and I'm going to be the one to take this shot. That's a lot, that's a lot to put on somebody, and he's fine with it. And, efficiency-wise, like 39% from three, 74% at the rim. Granted, he's not going to get there a ton. But this system, when it runs right, can create space for guys who are gifted on offense to perform. And you just got to be willing to kind of play within that and seize those opportunities, and he's doing that. And I think he could get exploited on defense, so I'm not convinced this is a permanent lineup change, Chris. But as far as right now, they're riding the hot hand, and it's hot because he's just kind of a guy that has the mindset to take advantage of it.
The other thing that Brendon, that makes him a you guy is, I don't know if you saw, he was pretty dismayed by the fact that people didn't try very hard in the Rising Stars game.
I did not. I have to admit I was not tuned in on Friday night.
Yeah, I'm not saying I was either, but I was reading some I
guess
clips.
I should have said I didn't know he was in the game. I had thought in my head, and then I had to fess up to something that I didn't actually say, which is that I didn't know he was in the game, and I didn't know because I didn't watch. Here's
his quote. "It was pretty bad. Nothing like the regular season. It would be nice if we took it seriously." He gets
Steve
it.
Kerr's just fist bumping in the background.
Yes, Steve Kerr. So Steve Kerr is actually where I want to kind of we'll get into what this looks like big picture. I think, Brendon, with the Warriors, I think they're a team we're going to have to do a real look at some point and see if this holds and kind of see what this looks like. But I also think that it's possible this is one of the only places you could do something like this. This is one of the only coaches that could actually do something like this. Not every coach, I think, would have the trust in the buy-in from a Steph Curry, a Draymond Green, that locker room, to actually be able to do this. And I also think it speaks to Kerr.
Benching Klay for a rookie, basically, is what you're saying.
Benching Klay, a multi-time champion, one of the defining players of the last decade of your franchise, an icon of the franchise, to do that and have the guts to do it and do it in a way that felt very human, just the way Kerr talked about it was just very human and empathetic to Klay. I don't think most coaches could walk that line, and I think that's part of the brilliance of Steve Kerr, is that he can actually do this and it not be something that comes across as like, okay, now you got to like Klay's gone. It's walking a line of figuring out what is actually best for the team in a way that is done as, I think, humanely and empathetic as possible. That to me is maybe the most that dynamic of this to me is just so one of one and fascinating.
Yeah, I'm only changing it to the cold realities of his contract situation, not because I think that's most important, but because I don't have a better way of putting the Kerr and that core dynamic than you just did. But it does make me think of his contract because it feels like a byproduct of him softening up to these adjustments. And he obviously had the comments to Marcus Thompson at The Athletic or to the media there locally, and Marcus wrote about it a week or two before that, where he said, there's nothing wrong with being a great role player on a good team after all that I've been through physically. You know, and that's a pretty humble thing to say too. And all of that leads me to believe maybe there's a bigger opening for him to agree to a contract maybe smaller than he was hoping for last, when they were talking about an extension last fall, but amenable on both sides where he can come back and maybe be paid more like a role player, take a page out of the Mike Conley playbook here and accept what he is and what he will be paid, but also not be insulted by that, and see it as an opportunity to continue to contribute with the group of people that he's done a lot with. And I just think I'm rooting for it because I want them all to finish their careers there just so we can all enjoy the whole ride. Like I don't want it to break apart at the end, and so maybe there's a part of me that's a little bit of a softie about it because I just personally am rooting for it. But I do feel like he is opening himself up to it more than he was definitely like 6 months ago.
It also, to me, bodes well, Brandon, that he just went off in the first game he did this. And I will see if that holds. We'll see how many games this even exists.
Was that the lineup change, or was that, hey, we wanted LeBron and you were going to be sent to Los Angeles?
I mean, whatever it is, you got something out of him, I guess, to be cold about it.
Yeah. The part of this that's so weird to me is how how consistent and solid he was during the finals run. Why did he have that in him and then it fell off a cliff after that? It would have made so much more sense if the injury came and then he was never the same, but he just had this blip where it's like, oh yeah, and then they won another championship. And he was a big part of it. Not the biggest, but a big part of that.
Yeah. I don't know. Bodies are weird, man. The human body and injuries are I don't think nothing I think, Brendon, happens linearly. Like, I don't think any of this stuff ever unfolds exactly how you would expect is really the lesson with all of this.
No. My question about them looking forward, and we, not to talk about right now, but just an unknowable thing is Chris Paul's hurt right now. What's his role when he comes back?
I don't know. I don't know. I genuinely don't know.
They've really found something here, and he's small. He's small and he hasn't really scored at all this year. He basically hasn't even tried to. So if they're leaning into more defense-first lineups, more wing-heavy lineups where the offense is, largely going to come from Curry, Kuminga, and Podziemski and a little bit of Klay sprinkled in, it's like, what is Chris Paul doing? And that's
I don't know. Yeah, and this is a team that's going to, I think, Brandon, even if they're trending in the right direction, and this is like whatever is working here, their path to maximizing the season, it's not a wide path. It's a pretty narrow path. It's a tightrope they're going to have to walk to kind of figure all this out and maximize what this is. It's not going to be an easy job for Kerr. It's not an easy job for Curry or for any of these guys. So I think you were on this ahead of me. This is one of the most fascinating teams I think down the stretch run for a variety of reasons.
Because they're playing great.
Mm-hmm.
They've been really, really good. They look like their old selves again, and the young guys are finally contributing. So